to the fourth edition of the fifth season of the Michigan Lacrosse Review. My name is Greg Normand, your host. And as always, we've got former UDM head lacrosse coach Chris Cullen with us, and one of the best broadcasters in the Midwest, John Losey, who's also the UDM's lead voice for the Titans, which are playing, and we're going to hear a little bit about those conversations. First of all, gentlemen, thank you for coming. We're going to spend a little time with Brian Effencher talking about the high school rules this year, and I think there's some pretty interesting comments. We're going to check in with some of the guys in the NAIA, and we've had those conversations. We'll do that, kind of catch up. We did the MIAA last year, but I just want to say I hope you guys had a good week, and we're starting a new week, so welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me, Greg. I'm out here in sunny Phoenix, Arizona here, where I was out watching club lacrosse this weekend, Michigan State women's lacrosse. So lacrosse on the brain.
Good. Well, listen, let's check in with a couple things. I want to start briefly with the Michigan loss. They got all the way down to Duke in just a heartbreaking way to lose off a tip shot, getting the ball after they recovered in overtime. Chris, you've been in those situations. There's not much you can say, and the player feels as bad as anybody.
Yeah, what a great game between, I think when you look at the ACC and the Big Ten, it's really the two best conferences, and games like that kind of matter in terms of seeding in the future, and to have such an even game, and it's going to be interesting to watch Duke playing Notre Dame, and as the ACC starts getting in the ACC and the Big Ten starts playing the Big Ten, I think a great bounce back after Michigan's game against North Carolina. I think they played so much better against Duke, and maybe Duke at some points might be looks a little bit better than North Carolina. So it's just a big tumbler of maybe you're going to win, maybe you're not going to win. I can't imagine the margin of error in that game. I know how much analysis that both those staffs do. I'd love to be hearing the Sunday night conversations that they're having after they've reviewed film, and maybe the two or three different plays that would have made a difference. So just an unbelievable game to watch it. It's sad that there had to be a winner and a loser, but I sure would have liked U of M to win it. But
is what it
that's
is.
the way it goes.
Chris, if you're Kevin Conroy and you get not to have a great outing at North Carolina, you come back and play obviously a very good Duke team. Are you at least somewhat pleased that you've had that recovery? I mean, I know you lose and nobody wants to lose, but does that at least is there a silver lining there?
Again, I don't. Coach Connery is he wants to win no matter what. So he's trying to find a way to win, and I don't think what I know of him is he wins that game by 20. He's still not happy because he wants to win by 21 and 22 and 23. So the outcome's the outcome, but it's the performance and growing at this point, and trying to be playing your best at the right time. So
Yeah, I mean, and you look at the Big Ten. The Big Ten had a real good weekend. You look at Rutgers beat Loyola. You look at Ohio State with the upset with Virginia. Hopkins lost by a goal to North Carolina, and then Penn State beat the 20th ranked Navy squad. So I think collectively it gets everyone excited about the Big Ten this season, because I think I think this is going to be another good year for the Big Ten. And from a Michigan perspective, you got to play the same teams that everybody else is playing. And so how do you stack up? And to your point, Chris, it's building towards that Big Ten, and the Big Ten is going to be one heck of a battle all season.
And it's going to be hosted in Ann Arbor. In my new situation where I've kind of been focused at what was happening at 6 Mile.
Yeah.
I've already bet, that Thursday, Friday, Saturday for the Big Ten championship in Ann Arbor. It's going to be incredible. If you take this week's games and how well everyone's playing and how great Maryland looks. We're just so lucky in this area that Michigan is hosting what's going to be some of the best lacrosse ever. So it's going to be great.
It needs to be hyped. That's my whole thing. It really needs to be hyped up to really grow the sport and continue that growth in the state of Michigan. Obviously, we've got the high school state championships now in Ann Arbor, and now you got the Big Ten championships there this year.
It's going to be so great.
Yep.
John, let's move a little bit to 6 Mile and then briefly have a conversation. I think most of us had a chance to watch the Bellarmine University of Detroit Mercy game, and I'm going to pass Chris because he's got an insight probably to it that we don't have. But if you're watching the game and you've watched the first three games, and specifically the Bellarmine game, they score a little bit early, but offensively, I was a little shocked at how I don't want to be mean, but rudimentary, sort of not very imaginative. What? Any thoughts?
Well,
Chris is jumping in
I'm.
there.
I can tell you this. I know most of the guys in that coaching office, and I know how hard that ride home must have been for them, and I know how hard today is for them, and I know the kind of people that they are, and I know that they're going to do their best to figure out how the best they can be right now. They're going to figure it out, and they're going to make some tough decisions and continue the process that move forward. So, I think it's you've got a very experienced staff, and you've got a president at Bellarmine who was at Loyola of Maryland, who really elevated lacrosse and it has made it a giant priority. And, they've got a lot of benefits and a lot of things going on down there that are really good and fine. I think U of D had some bus trouble on the way down from what I've heard. And some kids might have not been as focused, but I also know those kids are going to get back to work on Monday, and those players are going to figure out a way to be the best they can be. And it starts out, I think, with rudimentary offense, and then they're going to figure out and be as they grow into what they're doing, and I think they're going to continue to get a little bit better. Some of the challenges that they have, I don't know if it's coaches or players. Let's save that for the end of the season versus right now. But I can tell you, I know a lot of those kids, and I know those coaches, and I know they've been sitting around probably all day today trying to figure out what they can do individually and as a group to be the best they can be. And they're going to come out and grow out of it. We've had a lot of 0-3 starts at U of D in my career, and they've grown out of it, and they've gotten to winning seasons at that point. So, I have faith in that, and I think they're gonna, I think they're gonna grow into it.
Well, John, that was a great throwing your voice as a ventriloquist. That was a really good impression
Really?
of
I know.
thought.
I know.
So let me try to change that. I think Chris is obviously sticking up for his team, and he should. He was coach there for a long time, and those are good points. But if you look at the 0-3 and 0-4 starts the last couple of years, they haven't gotten over the hump. But here's my question, John. From a broadcasting standpoint, when you're looking at a program that, Dan Miller had an interesting conversation in the last couple of years with the Lions. He endured all those seasons with the Lions not doing well. And everybody was kind of like, you certainly seem more excited than normal. Well, he's excited because they're going to try to win a Super Bowl. And if you're a fan of the game and you're certainly a professional announcer, do you look at the idea that does winning and losing enter into your brain at all as a broadcaster?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to. I mean, my goal as a broadcaster is to, while I am the voice of the Titans, and I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm very blessed to do it. You still need to be, impartial, right? I mean, you're broadcasting to a number of people, and you don't know whether they're a fan of either one of the two teams. They could be just someone tuning in for whatever reason. And so I always look at it as an opportunity to help promote the game itself. You need to be honest. You need to be fair. And so I think that it does matter. I mean, there's no reason not to talk about the wins and the losses, especially in the new conference, right? I mean, moving to the NEC is going to be this new thing. And I think when they get into those games, I think you're going to see a different game. I think Bellarmine is a step above in talent right now. While UDM jumped out, 4-1 early, and then then they gave up 15 straight to end it, right? I mean, through the first and the second, the third and the fourth. So I think, you mentioned rudimentary, and I think it's just more, I think it's more vanilla than rudimentary. I think that they're trying to figure out, all right, who do we have and what do we have? And so it's not a reset on what Chris ran, right? It's just, I think he needs to get, comfortable with the guys, and then comfortable with their ability to understand what he really wants to do, right? So
That makes sense.
I think that's kind of where we are.
Okay. let me leave that alone because we want to be able to get into one of the other subject. But we should mention, and John, I think you had it. Alma wins their first game this year,
Yep.
and I think
Yep.
that's
There we go.
for Zach. We had him on the first week, and I think that's a great start. We've mentioned good things are coming out of that part of the world, and apparently winning a first
Yeah.
game is one of those things.
Yeah, to get the first win. I mean, I would love to have seen his celebration, right? I mean, we need video from the locker room, just with his excitement and how he celebrated. But I don't care who they played against, right? You won a game. It's great for the kids who've been putting in the work so far. It helps you build on something, and they may not win another game all year, but winning a game, Chris, and you went through some streaks where it was like we just need to get one game, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's great for them. I think you look across the MIAA. I mean, Kalamazoo won, Albion won, and so you had a lot of good teams. Hope was postponed this weekend, but I think it just sets everything up for a great MIAA coming up, and I'm just excited for all the lacrosse that's going to be going on in the state of Michigan.
Before we get into the discussions about the NAIA, and then we're going to have those guys on and talk about their teams, we're going to have a chance to spend some time with Brian Effinger, who is the trainer for Mishloa. If you're not familiar with Mishloa, that is the Referees Association for high school lacrosse. And there's a couple of rules that are going to change for this year that are, I don't know if they're significant. One, I think, is they're going to put the boxes back to the 40-yard line and be equal to what they do now in college to clean up the sideline, which is I think it works and it's not a big thing. The second part is they got to have a helmet that sticks on their head. The helmet comes off, then we're going back to like all the other rules in football. You got to come out for a play. Kids are wearing their mouth guards, and it's just a cleaning up and a safety issue. The big rule, and Chris, I know you've got a serious understanding of this process. Kids have been wearing lamp black eyeliner, if you will, for glare for a long time. It every year it sort of escalates. I think of Aiden Hutchinson, who puts it down the side, and if you watch a bunch of football players, are doing the rest of it. The National Federation of High Schools have made the decision that you get a one swipe across. It can't go outside the eye and it can't go below the nose. And it can't have any kind of political or, it can't have any signs in it. It's got to be what it's supposed to be for, which is reflection from light. I've always made the joke that the only reason that they use it for outfield for baseball during the day, and I don't even know why they wear it at night, but that's okay. We've left it. But the state now, the federation now has made a rule that says if you wear it in outside of that rule process, that you're going to get a 1 minute unreleasable penalty. They're putting teeth into the rule that officials and coaches have walked on, have really not spent much time. Chris, if you and I are playing each other and the guy says, "Do you care?" I don't. Well, now I have to. Can't afford to lose a kid because he's got. So we're gonna have a bucket of hot water and a towel probably sitting right next to the bench. And so guys, weigh in on what you think for lamp black for what it's worth.
I'll let Chris you start because I know you've got
Yeah, what's interesting to me is you wish as a society we could be a little bit more responsible and kids could be more responsible. I think lacrosse is such a creative game. It's the only sport where you really have a customized tool that is your own thing. You can string your own stick. It's a personal thing, and I think it's what makes the sport great. And when you look at the history of eye black and the Powell brothers and kind of where it's gone, it became part of the persona, just as your stick is part of your persona, and the stick is such an important part. So when it was used appropriately, artistically, as without some of the symbols and bad things that led to this rule, it really was a great part of the creative part of the game. And it's the part that a lot of us are really attracted to. So it's a shame that in today's day and age we can't, we get that taken away because of some irresponsible kids or coaches or whoever. And it's probably kids that made some pretty bad choices that are valid choices on why it should have been taken away. But I like this game. I love the creativity. I love whenever there's creativity, helmet stickers, use of logos, things like that, uniforms. That we have such a great creativity and artistic part of our game that iBlock is a part of. And it's a shame that it's getting taken away. I now understand why it's been taken away, and that's rightfully so. But it's a shame that we couldn't have a little bit more responsibility kids are whatever 16-year-old kids should be responsible enough to know what they can and can't do um, in terms of being appropriate towards other people and things like that. So that's my take.
John, you as a coach, think for a coach for a second. Do you allow a kid to go on the field with the face paint knowing he's going to get unreleasable, or are you going to not ever let him on the field?
Well, I mean, you can have it. You just need to follow rules as we do with any other thing within
That
the
wasn't my,
sport.
that wasn't my question. Are
Okay.
you going to let him go on the field with
No.
okay?
No,
No,
not
I mean,
anymore.
like,
You'd,
I
we'd
mean,
all agree the penalty's too severe, right?
yeah, well, I mean, any penalty, right? I
No.
mean, and any kid who's just trying to, I mean, and this is where the discussion goes sideways. And this is kind of, the talking heads of the world that we live in right now, is that people take something and they turn it into where it's stifling the game, or the kids want to be creative, or the no fun league. Well, there's a reason why this rule is in place. And if you keep it at what it is for the surface, that there are, people using it for bad reasons, or lack of character reasons is probably a better phrase to use.
Yeah.
So maybe if everyone actually followed the rules and did it the way they were supposed to, then maybe there could be some more leniency rather than it going in the other direction. When you start to take advantage of things and you push the envelope, well, then you're going to get pushed back for the betterment of the game and everybody. So no, I don't let a kid on the field who's doing anything that's dumb. Just like you wouldn't do it if he wasn't wearing his mouth guard, or his helmet was, no chin strap, or something else silly like that. It's a rule.
Let me tell you that I think I'm a coward in this rule, and here's the deal. I didn't care. I really didn't. But I would have to get along with it because it was easier than arguing with 15 players who were all in the mirror, in the locker room before the game, getting himself adorned. Now the referee becomes the bad guy. I can say, listen, boys, this is the way the rules work. But here's something else you don't think about. I had literally kids last year that had grease paint all over their face. So they sweat, they take their white jersey that I paid $50 for, and they wipe off their face, and I can't get the damn stuff off the jersey. So as crazy as that's going to sound, but the sublimated apparel that we now buy doesn't have the cleaning ability, at least from my perspective. I've used all kinds of detergents to try to get some of these jerseys clean. So it's also a practical issue. I know that's a small point, but maybe they just made it easy for everybody to just make the rule and be done with it, and we move on.
No, it makes sense. If people are doing offensive stuff and crossing lines that shouldn't be crossed, I get it. It's just you would hope that people would be a little bit more responsible. Aiden Hutchinson, that's artwork, right? It's like a Mike Tyson tattoo, right? Like there's nothing but and you go back to the Mikey Powell is the best example. It was he's trying to create a persona, and that was great.
Yeah, it's a brand. It's a brand. Yeah,
right, it's a brand, and it was great.
Right.
But it's a shame that that some people have taken it a little bit too far, and I understand the rule, and if I'm a coach, I'm definitely following it.
Is this what we need to worry about? I mean, we have so much other things that can be, adjusted or modified to help the game and the sport. This is what kind of drives me nuts, is that we focus on these things that are so transactional. It's like, really, I mean, let's just make a decision on something and move forward here and enforce it, and have coaches enforce it as well.
Yeah, good. Sounds like they are.
I brought it up because I think there's parents that are going to complain. There's going to parents going to like. There's going to parents going to don't care. It's a rule. It's part of it's not part of our federation test that you got to pass to make sure you understand the rule.
Right.
From a coaching perspective only, it just gives me a little more control over something that I thought was getting out of control to some extent. And it makes
and where are we in a society, right? You make a rule, then it's everyone's prerogative to fight against it and fight the power and all this other stuff. Where, I mean, is the juice worth the squeeze? Really? I mean, you want to die on the vine for, eye black? Really?
No, I get that, but just a quick point to Chris is that the Powell brothers may have, or the Gate brothers may have used it, but I've got pictures of Shoeless Joe Jackson and Ty Cobb with eye black under their eyes, so it's not something new to sport. In fact, it's not new to sport because if you go back to the old days of baseball, those weren't fluorescent lights that they had; those were direct, huge light bulbs. And part of the glare, if you see do some of the readings of the old outfielders, some of those stadiums, Tiger Stadium, some of the rest of them.
Yeah.
Those lights were bright. Anyway, Brian Effinger is going to be up next from Ishloa talking to us about this. So let's let him kind of explain it. I think you're going to be really surprised at some of his thoughts because I think they're not unlike ours. So, Brian will
Good
be
man.
back with us in a couple seconds after the commercials.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how sketch is vaping? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes. Look at that. You even turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you got to get it trending.
No, you're doing it wrong.
Let's go.
Can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
At the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, ending abuse is not just our job, it's our promise.
Welcome back. We're going to spend some time talking with one of the best referees in Michigan, Brian Effinger, who's both a collegiate and a high school official. We're going to talk a little bit about the new rules for federation. And there's some sort of commonality now between box sizes for high school to college. And you're going to see a little bit different structure on the sideline, Brian. Let's start with that rule if we could. First of all, I appreciate you taking the time. And maybe kind of explain what we're doing on the sidelines for those who care.
Sure. Well, if you remember, long ago, the box was 10 yards. Then they decided they were going to make it the full length of the wing lines, thinking that there would be a greater amount of transition play. And that didn't prove to happen. So then typically high school oftentimes follows what college does. College moved back to the 10-yard box, but then they also, because they're worried about coaches getting onto the field and all the problems that can happen with that, they created an additional 5-yard area called the coach's box, where it's both a stage, it's where the box coach can stand and players can stage themselves there before they enter the box when substitution is imminent. And what that also does for us is it makes that fast transition where people are getting off the field very quickly. It allows us to get ahead of the play and really to the far cone, hopefully before the players start to come on, because it's a bit of a scary situation at times when people are really flying in and out of there. So I think the high school coaches did a great job last year when we really pushed them back, and they've been good, for the most part, really good about that. This is just going to push them wider. And as we were talking before the broadcast, from a visual standpoint, where you're playing on a football field, or a mixed field, I should say, you're really at the 40-yard line going in opposite directions, and that's where the players are going to be.
What's the penalty for violation?
You
Lost
can
possession?
call people. It's one where you just have to keep. You could probably call conduct if they just
Okay.
continuing ignore you when you're asking them to go back. And all the games I did last year, we didn't have any problems in terms of staying back away from the field. Now it's just a matter of they're going to put a cone, a stick down or something like I've seen in some of your games. You can put a stick there and people stay away, and that'll be a good thing.
I think one of the things too that we've done in the high school level, I think that's just following the colleges, is that we now have a full-time box coach that handles nothing but switches and transitions. So that's his job, right? It's one of our JV players who was, one of our JV coaches who was a college player, and that way he gets to stick around after the JV game and do something responsible, and he makes the line switches and does a great job, and that solves that problem because you got 1,000 other. Like the last thing I want to worry about is whether or not there's 3 guys standing in a box. So I completely understand that part.
Well, and at all levels, to be honest with you, the box coaches are the ones we talk to all the time.
Yeah,
we want them to be our friends,
absolutely,
because we can talk to them. That old notion of, oh, he's just an assistant coach, don't talk to him. That's ludicrous, right? You need to have communication, talk to everybody you can, because then they can help you, and that's all you're really trying to do.
Yeah, there are some standards that happen. There are some historical value tasks that happen in sport, but they certainly change with it. And in some cases, kids today don't even know what those are. So it's probably a good idea that we change them. One of the things, Brian, tell me if this is one of the new rules, and I think it is. I haven't taken my test yet, but I noticed that at the collegiate level, at some of the broadcasts we've done, especially some of the higher level, I noticed that at a Marquette game, NAIA is the acronym that covers the certification of most equipment. And I'm
Right.
watching guys wear equipment that I've never quite seen before. Chin straps on the nose, like you're wearing like an oxygen mask. Gloves that are cut more than I've ever seen, with palms open like the old days and the old box days, and
Right.
some of those kinds of things. But for high school, I think the new rule is you've got to wear everything the way it's designed.
Well, again, they're following the guidance of college. College came out with some very strict rules about the loss of a helmet, where it is a penalizable event, either through the loss of ball or spending time in the box. Either way, you've got to leave the field because they want to make sure that you're checked by medical personnel. On the high school side, losing your helmet or any piece of equipment in a scrimmage area, you just stop play. Doesn't matter how it happened, right? But what they're doing now is, because they don't want people to wear their helmets incorrectly, they're saying, first of all, that the chin strap needs to be on your chin and not covering your mouth. Second, those 4 points should be set up so that you cannot take your helmet off without undoing it. Now, you and I know that doesn't always happen, but it's putting a tremendous burden on coaches to try to make sure that does happen. In regard to the chin strap, they want us to look around and watch people before the game and try to do preventive type of officiating. Same thing with the eye black, which we'll talk about in a second. Uh, but if, for instance, we decide to be nice and say, "Hey, go off the field, fix your chin strap. If you come back on, when he comes back on, if it's not proper, you can penalize him for 1 minute non-releasable." However, in the rules, we have no obligation to be nice and give them that warning. They're saying that the pregame certification of equipment is all, that's all you need to do. They're more strict with that because they're worried about injuries to the head. It's not as much a point of emphasis with wearing elbow guards around your elbow as opposed to under your jersey up on your upper arm. But that's another one where you're just supposed to wear equipment properly because they want people to be safe.
Okay. A conversation that we've had at nauseum for 4 or 5 years anyway. You and I've certainly had this. Eye black has been used for a variety of, from decorative. They wear it at night, and I kind of point out to them it was always originally designed for, sunlight and glare from the day. The new rule has got some teeth in it. It's very specific in where you can wear it. And yet, pardon the expression, you can't end up looking like Tonto and come on the field. Now, here's my question. Explain the rule. And then the follow-up is, are we still going to have a subjective decision-making in the process of that rule?
Well, the rule is if you're wearing eye black, it can be no more than a single stripe. That's it. No more than a single stripe. And whether that's done by putting it on or whether it's done with those sticky things that you can just put on yourself, you can't be penalized if on a hot day it starts to melt a little bit and you've got a little drippage. But now they don't want it to be subjective at all. If it's on there, they want it off. And again, they want us to penalize it. They want us to also to try to notice it before the game, which is really hard to do with all the other things you're trying to do and keep track of, 25 or 30 guys running around with helmets on in the first place. So this is another burden that's really going to fall on the coaches. When we went to the MHSA rules meeting, when they outlined the new, they show the NFHS presentation, we specifically asked the person who's a new guy for lacrosse. We said, "Hey, in the past, when we got together, the coaches together, we said, do either of you have any issue with eye black?" He said, "That's not a question you can ask anymore. It's not up to you.
Good.
These are the rules. This is what we want. And this is what's wanted across the country." Now, I'm not sure whether it's just high school administrators that are saying that versus officials that are in those rules meetings. It doesn't even matter. They just say they don't want it to happen. So while I think for the most part it was fun, that they were emulating, guys that they look up to at all different levels, they just don't want it anymore. And regardless of the sport.
And the penalty is a 1 minute unreleasable if you call it.
1 minute non-releasable penalty.
So I can lose a ball on possession if a kid wants to be, his own artistic, savant, but I'm not losing a minute on the field. We had 7 games last year that were 1-goal games. We either won or lost.
Right.
So I'm not going to lose a player for a minute. So finally putting some teeth into it from a coaching perspective makes it easy. Dan Hutchinson, who was the new MHSAA lacrosse rep, who used to be the athletic director at Howell High School. We thank Dan for putting some teeth into it. I know Cole's asked and argued with Cole Malatinsky, who Dan replaced. They've been asking you for a long time. And it also takes you guys off the hook from having to be trying to figure out which one side or the other when somebody's trying to play games. It's a very simple rule. You're going to follow it. And I'm going to keep a bucket and a wet towel next to the bench. And here's your choice. You can wear one line or you can sit your butt on the bench. Simple as that.
Right.
There's no more arguments because you guys are going to take care of it. So, I appreciate
the
that.
one thing that we've talked with other officials and other organizations, saying we're almost getting to the point where do what they do in other sports, where you just line up the whole team and you walk down and you inspect them, and they said, nope, we don't want to do that. You have the coach's certification. That's all you need to do. Now, you know as well as I do, they just randomly say yes, or in Ron Hebert's case, they better be, and if not, penalize them to the full extent of the law. Well, he's not going to want anybody to penalize somebody a minute for this,
Right.
and nor would any coach. So I think this is something that it really lies with the coaches to take a look at their team before they come out. Don't leave it up to us, because our hands are tied. We don't have that latitude anymore.
I coached girls for 10 years at the collegiate level, and I used to laugh the first couple of years about stick checks. And then I started to realize just how important those are before we start a game. So when I went back to the boys' side, if a kid was not sure, if I look at a pocket, wasn't sure, I said, go talk to the official. No, I'm not going to do that. And so we made a simple rule. If you get a stick penalty, you're done for the game. And we never had any more stick penalties because they would go up to the referees, and we're not going to negotiate. Just this is the way it is. You cause me a problem because you can't fix a stick before the game starts, you're done. I don't care if I lose, because I will not have another stick problem the rest of the way. And once you sit somebody because of that penalty, the guys got the message pretty cool, because in one case a couple years ago at Fenton, I sat my best player and we lost because he was off the field. That's okay. We haven't had a stick penalty since, so I think that makes some sense. One little simple question. This is the year where uniforms become, you have to have the white at home, and you've got to go through some of the parameters. If somebody wears a light gray jersey because they wanted light gray, and they called you as an official, and they called the other coach who's wearing blue, do you care?
Do I care personally? I don't
You care from the rule standpoint.
I don't. Well, we had this situation come up one time where I won't name the school, but a really, really very good school.
Yeah.
And they wanted to wear these special lighter blue uniforms instead of their white uniforms, and they were told you can't do it.
Okay.
So would I care? Would I stop the game and make them change personally? No. But I think that who knows what the other coach is going to do or say, right?
Oh, I get that. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you're looking at subjectivity as part of the process, just read the rule book and you won't have a problem, because you guys are now put in a position where you don't have to worry about the gray. And I think that makes your job easier. You have enough gray in just determining decision-making on penalties and the other kinds of things. Some of the standard stuff should be pretty routine.
I mean, as long as one is light and one is dark, life's pretty good. We can tell them apart,
Yeah. No, I get it. Well, listen, I appreciate this. It's fun. Well, hopefully, maybe if there's any specialty or any kind of stuff during the season, we'll check back in. And as always, Brian, I really appreciate your time. And hopefully, the guys that are watching this got a little out of it and can learn beforehand, sort of a bar conversation about the rules instead of trying to read through and not figuring them out. Because I think we've handled it hopefully in a more common sense approach. So thank you very much for your time. And
no, I appreciate you asking me, and I really appreciate what you do for the game.
Brian, thank you. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
I'll never forget the day I nearly died. The only way we found out I had any kind of heart issue was when I went into sudden death. I think unless you are a heart disease patient, you may not know how much work the American Heart Association does behind the scenes to save your life. Since my cardiac arrest, I've watched all 3 of my children grow into adulthood, and I'm still here.
Learn more about the American Heart Association's work at helpheart.org.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Have fun. Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
We're checking in with the NAIA schools. We've had a chance to kind of go through the MIAA the last couple of weeks on our show, and we're talking to first-year head coach Shane Lewandowski from Lawrence Tech, who is taking on a kind of a big rebuilding job down there in Southfield. So first of all, Shane, we appreciate you taking the time. And how's it feel walking in the steps of being a head coach now?
Yeah. I mean, it's a dream job, really. Something that I've been hoping for, praying for since I had to hang up the cleats. So I'm fortunate, I'm blessed, and enjoying this first year so far.
Now, you coming over from Rochester College as an assistant on the women's side, but that's really more about employment because you are give me your title at Lawrence Tech. You're one of the recruiters, if I'm not mistaken.
My title at Lawrence Tech or was it Rochester?
No, at Lawrence Tech.
Yeah. My title now at Lawrence Tech, head men's lacrosse coach. That's what I do.
And you don't do any admissions?
Nope,
Okay.
not anymore.
All right, let me start this thing over because I thought were you part of Rochester or part of Lawrence Tech as an admissions counselor?
No. That was my experience at Rochester. I was an
Okay.
assistant women's lacrosse coach. Yeah.
So you're a full-time lacrosse coach and that's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Let me start this over. I apologize.
No worries. No worries.
Welcome back. We're taking a trip through the NAIA world because last week we had a chance to spend some time in the MIAA world. We want to check in with a whole bunch of coaches and programs here in the NAIA. And we're talking with first-year head coach Shane Lewandowski, who's at Lawrence Tech. And we're trying to find out whether or not they're going to take a swing on the upside of things. They've had a 4-8 season in 24. And I guess you're the guy that Mary Meltzer decided to charge with the job of improving the folks at Lawrence Tech down there in Southfield. So first of all, congratulations on the new job and talk to us a little bit about it.
Yeah, thank you very much. The new job has been great so far. It's something I've been hoping for, dreaming for since I had to hang up the cleats myself. It's been, exciting, fun, going through a rebuild, and we've definitely felt some growing pains. Our players have, I have felt them. But we're starting to, norm as we get into the season, and then hopefully we'll start to really, perform on the lacrosse field here soon.
What are you going to hang your hat on this year? You're an offensive guy. You had a great career as a player at Siena Heights, be a former Tecumseh player, fairly close. Mix it out. Parents can watch you play. You had some record numbers as an offensive player. Are you concentrating on that side of the ball?
Yeah, that's my responsibility this year, head coach, offensive coordinator. I'm fortunate to have, two incredible assistant coaches. One guy takes care of our face-off men, another guy takes care of our, defensive side of the field. Both of them played in college. Our face-off coach, his name is TJ Kaminsky. He played at Lawrence Tech as an alumni himself. And then my defensive coordinator, Josh Abruzzo, he's someone I played with at Siena Heights. He's All-American in college. And I think if you could be an All-American as a coach, that he might be himself. So fortunate to have both those guys.
That's good. You're an assistant on the women's side at Rochester, but what do you know now as a first-year coach sitting in that head job that you didn't know, even 2 or 3 months ago? Because obviously there's different responsibilities when you're that first year is the guy making all the shots. It's a different animal.
Yeah. There's a lot more to this coaching thing than just showing up to practice and running games, So some of the things that I suppose I didn't know, how painful recruiting can be at times and how heartbreaking that can be. The whole academic eligibility thing is not so much an issue on our end, but it is something that we certainly have to keep tabs on and prioritize. And as, a lacrosse player my whole life, I can't say that's the most fun and exciting part of my job. But I feel like, we're learning something new every day out here, just as I settle into the role. I think back 5 months ago and I'm like, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that or would have spent my budget money a little bit differently. So again, feeling some growing pains, feeling my way through the darkness here, learning something new nearly every day is how it feels.
It's got to help though at Lawrence Tech with having Miriam Meltzer as an athletic director. I mean, obviously she is a standout on the women's side and has had success at every level, and certainly is doing the same job as an athletic director. You have great facilities, and you're located in a good spot. More importantly, it's an unbelievably strong educational institution, especially on the technical side.
Oh yeah, yeah. Number one, I mean, very fortunate, very honored to have been selected by MA to hold down the Lawrence Tech men's lacrosse team. And then yeah, the whole academic side of the institution, that's something that just has me really optimistic, right? There's a lot of kids in the US that want to become engineers, right? And part of the job as a head coach is to recruit and my realization so far has been that the entire market of college lacrosse players, right? There's a tiny slice that belongs to every team at every school. And I think locally, our slice is about as big as every other WAC schools. But if you consider the US as a whole, I think our slice is much larger than a lot of other schools just because of the academic side of our institution being a technological university. We do have different degrees from, most of the other liberal arts schools. So lots of opportunity there. And again, yeah, really honored to have been selected by, our AD to lead the way.
When you look around the landscape, it's great for another league and another level of lacrosse at the collegiate level to be, in place. Certainly, it helps to have club and then certainly the NAI. Where do you look at yourself in terms of NAI and maybe with the MIAA and some of the Division III programs? Do you see them as comparable, or do you just see it as another league?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I suppose I first off just see them as another league, right? Just because we don't really, we don't play them in postseason or anything. And because of that, I don't really spend a whole lot of time thinking about them. But no doubt, those D3 teams, those D2 teams, even that are around here, they're good teams, and I'd be lying if I said I'm not comparing myself to them, right? Or ourselves to them. So where do we stack? I like to think that we would stack up fairly well with, any of those teams. And at the same time, as we go through this rebuild, something about having 20 guys on your sideline compared to 40 or more is not such a great feeling. So hard not to compare yourself to them, but I think we can hang with about anyone.
You open the season this coming Saturday in Wixom against William Woods University.
Yep.
And then you have March 5th. You're heading down to Columbia College. So you're playing some good teams. Are those teams? I'm not real familiar with either one of those teams. Are those both NAIA teams?
Yep, those are both NAIA teams. William Woods, this is their first year in the NAIA. Real happy to have them out to host. Wish we could be on our our own turf, but there's a layer of snow on it right now, so we are forced indoors. The next game, Columbia, that's not actually we're not traveling south for that one. We are hosting that one at home. Again, we are hoping that there's, no snow on the field. And I don't know the history of that program so well, but there's, a whole lot of coaching changes that happen in college sports every year. And their head coach, he's seasoned. He got his team to play really well at the end of the season last year, but he is at a new home in Columbia. So I expect that contest will be a contest, regardless of, the snow, the coach, whoever it is. It's going to be a good game.
How many men's lacrosse programs nationally in the NAIA?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the exact number. I know that we are less than 40, more than 30. So not a ton of teams. But the top teams in the NAIA, they're definitely they're fun to watch.
And I guess my last question is, what are you concentrating on at the moment to get ready, and what have you been concentrating on over the last couple of weeks to get ready for that first game? What is the emphasis that Lawrence Tech has put on to hit the field on Saturday?
Yeah, yeah. So we really are focusing on ourselves this year. We have a tendency, as a tech school full of, a lacrosse team at a tech school full of engineers is to overanalyze our opponent, figure out exactly what they want to do, how they're going to do it.
Right.
And then, when we get to practice and we try to simulate these things, it's like, hey, we don't play the same way that you draw X's and O's on a whiteboard, right?
Right.
So we're shifting away from that just a little bit, and we're really focusing on ourselves, our own systems, making sure that we are executing the hell out of what we are trying to do. And we're just trusting that, with that focus, that preparation, that enthusiasm for the game, that victory is going to be an outcome, right?
Yeah.
So that's really been the focus, is just ourselves, making sure that we're doing our things the right way.
The data point conversations during filming must be amazing with all those engineers sitting in the same room.
You would think so. You would think so. It takes a long time with those guys, I will say.
Yeah. Well, listen, we'll check up through the season, see how you're doing. We hope for a great comeback a little bit after 4-8 season. Maybe you can put them back on the map with a winning record. And best of luck in your first year. And I appreciate you taking the time with us.
Thank you very much. Likewise, Greg. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you were the busiest man in Michigan lacrosse, wouldn't you say, over the last 3 months?
Yeah, it's been pretty busy. Doesn't stop you.
No, how's it going so far?
It's going pretty well. We're in Iowa right now for our first trip. We played Midland from Nebraska as a neutral site game yesterday. We won that 14-4. And then quick turnaround, we had St. Ambrose at their home field at 10 a.m. Central Time. So right back at it, and then we're off to Tennessee next weekend to play last year's national champs Kaiser, and then Tennessee Wesleyan. So be a busy 2 weeks here.
Are you guys busing back, or how are you? How's the travel?
Yeah, we're taking buses everywhere, 56 passenger. Things changed a lot since our early club days. So being varsity makes things a heck of a lot easier. a lot more work, but in the right way.
Got it. So what's that, a 2-day out, 2-day back trip, or is that
Yeah, we did we actually had a postponement due to cold weather guidelines. So we drove out Saturday and played game Sunday, game today. We're heading straight back after our game.
Got it.
Yeah, Madonna came out here as well. They're playing the same two teams as us, so it's kind of a 4-team round robin. We were able to get coordinated for some early season out of conference games, so it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, that's great. That's
40
great.
degrees feels really nice right now. So
So then you go home, and then a couple days of practice, and then the big game, right?
Yeah, back to practice Wednesday, Friday, and then Saturday we depart, and we got a Kaiser on Sunday, and I think Tennessee was the next day. Then we head home the following day. It's our spring break, so we'll come back, and I think we have one more out of conference game after that against Missouri Baptist at home, and then we start our conference play in the WAC. And that would be a grind in itself. Most of the teams in the conference are ranked in the top 10, so it's always a interesting battle when we get into conference play.
Yeah, and then where's the conference tournament going to be, or the conference tournament and then the national championship?
Yeah,
right?
so conference tournament is going to be based on the seeding, higher seed. The national championship this year is at SCAD in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, that's a great location.
It is. It's been there the last 2 years. We haven't made it yet. We made the WAC playoffs for the first time. I guess, in official varsity history last year, and then but yeah, the national championships is great facility. SCAD's, obviously it's a great town, great weather. But yeah, hoping to make it there soon.
Yeah, I've been there a few times, and it's pretty awesome. So
yeah.
All right, so let's go through we'll see what he cuts of that. What we're trying to do. So he did an interview with Lawrence Tech. I'm like, then we got to do Michigan Dearborn, man. So what we're just trying to do is kind of talk about, kind of give me like 3 or 4 good things that people kind of don't know, or kind of in a recruiting talk, and again, now what I'm doing, I'm telling kids, like, listen, like, Division III is great, but you got to look at NAIA too, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of good situations there. Kind of give me kind of the rundown, what you would give a high school junior.
Yeah. So obviously our biggest selling point is our Michigan degree. We're the only public school in the NAIA, so we have public tuition. Obviously, the Michigan degree, it's same degree as you attend Michigan Ann Arbor. It says University of Michigan. It's signed by Ann Arbor's president. So it's that in itself is our biggest recruiting tool. Obviously, moving to varsity, it's not pay to play. Our next biggest selling point is probably our roster size. We don't have a mandate on from the university in terms of having a 40, 50 man roster. So it's really up to us on what we want. So we usually like to be around 30 to 35 guys. Basically, if you're coming in here, you're going to play, you're going to contribute, you're going to contribute in your freshman year. You're not going to be sitting on a bench till your senior year and then hoping to see some time. So we spend a lot of time really recruiting guys that really want to be here and guys that know can contribute right away. So we are a little extra picky when it comes to who we have coming in. But honestly, the interest level is been off the charts, the last year or two. We had some good season last year, making the WAC playoffs. And just being that we have that Michigan degree, we're getting a lot of interest, across the country. More than about half our roster right now is from out of state. And that's something, 10 years ago we couldn't say. We didn't even have dorms, back in our early years, it was a commuter campus. So
Right.
we have dorms now, and we have a little bit more of that broader national reach. So those are probably our biggest two focus points there.
On the Dearborn campus, what are the kind of top 3 degrees guys are getting?
Yeah, so we're really known for the big two are engineering and business.
Sure.
Just they're ranked nationally in terms of programs. We have brand new engineering facilities that were just built over the last couple of years. So really engineering business, and the other great benefit of Dearborn is that we have a big campus. We're not tied to just a few, specialty programs. We have pre-law, we have pre-med. Really, it's kind of endless. Whatever you want to do, we can probably find a path for you in terms of a degree.
Yeah, that's excellent that you're letting kids do engineering and play sports. That's
yeah,
I know that's a tough one. We as coaches have to make a lot of that's a lot of work for the coaching staff and for the program to let those kids get through those programs. So
and that's the other aspect. It's not an easy path, right? Those are tough programs to get through. It's a tough university, and we do offer I'd say a more flexible schedule in terms of lacrosse. We're not going 40 hours a week. If you want 40 hours lacrosse a week, we're probably not the school for you. We really believe in, academics first. You're coming here to get a degree. We want to make sure when you leave our university that you have, a great college lacrosse experience, but more importantly, that you have a resume that will support you after college. A lot of our guys, as soon as they hit their sophomore year, most are working internships, co-ops, working 20, 25 hours a week with, in their field of study. And when they're graduating, they have, 2-3 years of internships on there. They played varsity lacrosse and they have a Michigan degree. So we really try and tailor our schedule to allow that flexibility. A lot of other schools, based on their practice times and whatnot, it's more challenging. And some guys want that, and I understand that, but it's all about what you want out of your college experience. And, that if you're looking for the path more like us, it's there. If you're looking for a path for all lacrosse, obviously those opportunities are out there as well.
Got it. So I know you've got these big out of conference games, which it's awesome that you're scheduling the best teams. I think that's awesome, and you're learning to travel, so that's awesome. That's going to pay huge dividends come time. Hopefully, you can get over to SCAD for the national championship. But let's talk one thing in conference. Which one is the biggest rivalry? I know a lot of guys on your team, and I love a lot of guys on your team. And what's that one game in conference that is kind of the big matchup where you guys just don't like each other?
It's been, Lawrence Tech and Madonna are always great ones, just because we're all within like 15 minutes of each other. A lot of our guys know each other.
Yep.
So those are always great battles that anything can happen, right?
Oh yeah, anything. I heard about that Madonna game last year. I'm really one of the things I'm really excited. I already have it on my calendar to go to it because I just it's I never had the time, and now I do. So I'll be at that one looking.
Madonna's definitely going to be
fireworks. So
Madonna's going to be a big one. Obviously, I've known their coaching staff for a while. I coached with them through PLG and whatnot, and obviously, they were the favorite in the playoffs last year, and we got them at the right time. We played how we needed to play, and we got them. So I know they're going to be really hungry, really hungry to get back at us for sure. So I know that's going to be a battle. I expect nothing less from them, though.
Yeah,
they have a great program, and but yeah, those two programs are probably our biggest, just because proximity, and Lawrence Tech too. They're an engineering school, so we get a lot of direct competition in terms of recruiting and whatnot as well there. But yeah, those are the two big ones for us.
All right, hey coach, good luck and rest of it for today, and we'll see you down the road.
Wanted to thank Brian for coming and talking to us a little bit about iBlack. I think it's an interesting discussion, and I think it's one of those you have it once and we don't ever talk about it again.
No.
And you'll have that argument at home, or you'll have it with referees, whatever it might be. We also had a chance to spend some time with some of the coaches in the NAI. Wanted to thank those guys. And next week, I want to talk a little bit more. We're going to have a couple more interviews with the NAI. I want to talk about that level of lacrosse and how that fits into the landscape. And then next week, John, I want to have a little bit of a conversation with you. Are we playing too many games in a season? And the only reason I'm asking that is that this is an unusual year. There are 2 weeks before the spring break for the public schools. I know that's different for the private schools, but we're actually going to get a chance to play more games before the season. And because it started a little bit earlier, we're actually, for the most part, being able to play 2. But Chris knows this better than anybody. We're playing 18 games, and colleges are playing 11, 10, 11, 12, 13. We'll go into detail next week. We're also going to try and we're going to start talking about some of the high school programs and some of the players. We're going to bring that to you. We're also going to try and bring some tips from various high school coaches and bring that to you. Both you guys, I appreciate you being on here. And for next week, we'll see you then.
Thanks so much.
Have a great week.